Oh, that's pretty easy. Cohiba, Connecticut. Very approachable. So it's something that's easy for a newbie to sort of ease into. But also, if they happen to smoke it after a nice heavy meal or maybe with bourbon or scotch, it'll stand up to that as well. So that's where I would start any newbie coming into the world of Cohiba. Cohiba, Connecticut. You can absolutely relight a cigar, which as evidenced by how much we've been relighting cigars during this process. But yeah, and that's actually a telltale sign of the quality of the cigar. How good is it on the relight, as we call it? I don't necessarily recommend relighting a cigar a day later, but there are times where maybe you're on the grill and you're smoking a cigar, you put it down, and you go to tend to different things in the yard, and you come back. So it's absolutely acceptable to relight a cigar, and also understood that you would relight the cigar. Smoking before a meal is actually something that's sort of widely done. Like we'll have cigar dinners, and we make an attempt at having a flight of cigars, sort of a cigar during the cocktail reception hour, so to speak, sort of to sort of get the night started. Typically, that's going to be a lighter cigar, and then there could be another cigar that you would have at the start of the meal or just before the meal, right. And it certainly shouldn't interfere with your food that you've decided to have as a meal. And we ideally try to pair the cigars with the meal so that you don't have things competing for your palate. And then after that, there's usually a fuller body cigar to sort of close the night up with a nice cocktail after you've eaten. Your stomach is full. That's going to be a different experience as well. So yeah, so there's nothing wrong with having a cigar before a meal. I do it all the time. I take a lot of guff about this from time to time. You won't find really any cigar makers that use anything aside from a straight cut. And some cigar makers don't use any cutters at all. Ideally, cigars are not meant to be V-cut or punched. When we're rolling a cigar, a lot about the finishing the cigar is really protecting the cap and protecting the integrity of the cigar and the integrity of the roll on the wrap. And when you V-cut a cigar, it's like cutting through the beam of a house, so to speak. People like that from the way that the smoke is channeled, and that's a preference, that's fine. And it's sort of the same with punching a cigar. And the thing that's inherently dangerous about punching a cigar, people a lot of time exert too much pressure in punching down the punch to create the hole that they actually crack the wrapper. So if that's your preference, that's okay, not casting stones. But for my personal preference, straight guillotine cut is the way that I go. But again, it's a personal preference. We go through a pretty well thought out and time consuming process to source and bring in tobacco from literally all over the world. Age it at inordinate amounts of time. Put it through all kinds of stress as it relates to heat and moisture, all these different things to create a cigar that delivers a certain flavor profile. So, from my standpoint, it's kind of sacrilege to change the flavor of that cigar. If someone wants to do that, just buy a flavored cigar or buy an infused cigar. I don't know exactly when that started, but my guess is the genesis of that was sort of like with mixed drinks with spirits during Prohibition, where you didn't have very, very tasty and rich.
They weren't as high quality.
Yeah, so you had mixed drinks. And I think that may have been started with people that maybe during the time we have exceptional tobacco available now, exceptional cigars. But the industry went through a boom 20 or so years ago where there was a run on tobacco and the quality wasn't the same. So I think people may have started dipping cigars to mask or enhance the flavor of the cigar. But I would just beg people to enjoy the cigars for what they are and how they're meant to be created and enjoyed, because someone went through a lot of time and effort to deliver whatever that taste profile is. And if that taste profile is not to your liking, find another cigar that is. So I would ask people not to dip cigars, but again, it's a preference, but I still ask.
I would go with something that is aged well-rounded, good Kentucky bourbon. Full roses, single barrel, full roses, small batch. Some that you can find easily. Bullet, the Knob Creek 9-year-old. I wouldn't do anything too complex. The good news is with bourbon, a lot of it's very approachable.
Yeah.
Caramels, sugars, vanillas, dark chocolate. These are the flavors we find in it. But those are a few. I would do something a little bit lighter with less proof.
For me, yeah, Basil Hayden is a solid go-to.
Yes.
Russell's 10 years solid. And if they want something on the economical side, Cooper's Craft, man.
The Cooper's Craft
Yeah,
is very
blue
nice.
cap, baby. Yeah.
Woodford Reserve, again, a lot
solid.
of nice corn notes on the Woodford Reserve. Very easy to approach. And if you've never done it before, try it by itself. But if you think it's not sweet enough, or if you need it watered down some, put it on the rocks when you first try it.
Absolutely.
It's a way to dive into.
But you're right. You want to go with some of the sweeter profiles, the sweeter elements, the caramel. The heat can be off-putting for a newbie. At least it was for me, and I'm newer to this category than you are. But I just remember early on that was one of the reasons I gravitated to bourbons early on, as opposed to the scotches, which Scotch was my first introduction to the whiskey category. But I gravitated to bourbons because of the sort of sweeter profiles.
Nice.
But yeah, there's a lot of places to choose.
There's a lot of places to start.
Yeah.
I would go with the Eagle Rare 10-year-old to start with. A lot of complexity, very elegant, wonderful sugars that come up through the barrels, some nice age, not over-aged, but balanced. What it's all about balance. What cigar would you put it with?
I would actually, I guess it depends on the guys and how steep they are in the cigar smoking experience. But staying in the Cohiba camp, if we're talking about just sort of a varied degree of experience in cigars, Cohiba, Connecticut. 6 different tobaccos, 5 different countries, very complex. It's weighty enough for someone who's an experienced cigar lover, but also very approachable for a newbie. So if you got a guy's night and there's a wide range of experiences, I think that's a good go-to.
And the way to really, I think, take that Connecticut, put a couple different bourbons beside it. Put the Eagle Rare 10.
Absolutely.
Put a full roses single barrel, a little bit heavier, a little more proof. And then maybe just also put a rye. See how that spice plays against it as well.
Bullet rye.
Do a bullet rye against it.
Very, very approachable.
So I have 3 whiskeys, all American against the Connecticut. Go back and forth with the whiskeys, see how they play on your palate, and see what you like best.
Absolutely.
The Diplomatico is one that has some beautiful sugars. I also really like plantation rum, everything from their pineapple rum to their XO. Those have some real complexity. They start over on this side of the world.
That's not on a lot of people's radar. It's
a smaller brand. They're actually, one of the beautiful parts of plantation is they start on this side of the world in a variety of the islands, and then they actually take a boat all the way to France. I call it Frenchifying the process. So they're really putting that French note on, but I think they're very complex.
Is there a beret and a neck scarf?
And a cigar to go with it, a glass of rum.
I love it.
I would do something that has some weight to it, nothing too dark, but something that has a little bit of age, nice sugars, nice elegance. So I'd say Plantation, Diplomatico. And then if you're at a smaller craft distillery in the US, there's some wonderful rums being made in the US, like Breckenridge rum from Colorado. Breckenridge, Colorado is making
I didn't know they made
beautiful rum. And if you really are a bourbon and rum fan together, there are some bourbons that have been finished in rum barrels, like we had the Bardstown bourbon finished in Foursquare rum barrels, and there's a variety of others too. That's where I would go if you're a bourbon fan wanting to get into rum and bourbon cigars. Of course, no end of pairings when it comes to that rum.
Yeah, I actually like going a little bit bolder in body and profile with that. The Cohiba Nicaragua, I like that sort of that roasted coffee bean, a little savory element to it, a little bit of cocoa. I think that right amount of sort of just front of the palate spice.
It's a good balance.
Really well with a nice rich sweet rum. And for me, I'm not as steeped in the category of rum. Legenda is a nice solid go-to for me. It's a little bit sweeter for some people, granted, but again, I like that with the Nicaragua or some other spicier expression. Yeah. With weighted bourbons, you're going to get a softer note, but it all depends
how long they've been aging. A lot of the Buffalo Trace family, as we know, you got the Weller as well. It's been aging for a while. So the barrel, the time in the barrel, the seasons it's seen has done a lot to that weeded note. To me, it really gives this, weeded bourbons have this wonderful old library, old warehouse note that really comes through beautifully. I would go something medium on the cigar that really
mild
helps
to medium for me.
Show that elegance through. You don't want to lose the elegance. The weeded bourbons are elegant. That softness is there.
Riviera, if I'm thinking a darker wrapper or a Maduro wrapper, Riviera is the heaviest I would go, like Royale or even Cohiba Black to me. Those are sort of out of the range that I'd like to go. We explored the Macanudo vintage earlier. I think that's a good option. Nice classic cigar, very cedar rich, very elegant. I think that's something that really works well with the weeded bourbon. I just would stay away from cigars that are very, very nicotine heavy.
Right, that'll take it over.
Very, very spice forward. You want the weeded bourbon profile and the cigars to kind of dance together. And I would just sort of, just not go over the top as far as the strength and body of the cigar.
Let that,
which are two different things. Strength and body.
Strength and body. Get that body, that mouthfeel as well.
Yes.
But that soft elegance you're going to taste, and it's going to come together.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely. You know what I tried with that recently?
Yeah.
And you have to categorize this for me.
Yes.
But the Bacta Rye.
The Bacta Rye, the one, the 1928. Yeah. You think that would be nice?
I had that.
With the red note.
When I got the bottle a couple of weeks ago, I tried that. It was just the cigar that I was planning to smoke, and that was a really, really nice pairing. And I think the red dot, the Cameroon leaf, is a very, very interesting profile too. You got this sort of, I don't necessarily want to call it a spice, but it has this sort of just a little pop to it that's very, very distinctive with the Cameroon leaf. Very cedary, this sort of slight creamy note to it. Dead on medium body, but it's a classic, elegant cigar. And I enjoyed that Bacta Rye. And I don't know if it was the rye element or that's finished.
Because so that's I think that's a perfect idea. The rye, it's rye whiskey that also has some very old Calvados and extremely old Armagnac balance. So if you're looking that direction with that spice from the red dot, also that softness, that cedar note, go for something like the Bacta 1928. Also, something that's been finished in wine barrels, maybe something that's a port barrel finish. Very light port barrel finish might be nice.
Maybe because you decided to turn your cigar around and smoke the foot and light the head.
That might be the reason why.
I don't know. But I don't know why she left you, but and you're saying it's a she, so I'm assuming you're a he. Doesn't have to be, but I'm sure you're a fine fellow. And this is a great time to be alive and find yourself in a nice cigar shop, meet some friends.
Have a nice pairing.
And the fastest growing demographic in cigars right now are females. So
this can work.
So she left you, maybe she just created some opportunity. Find yourself in a cigar shop, meet some new people, and I'm sure there's a female or two in the fold that's enjoying cigars. So there you go.
It's going to bring new folks and friends together.
Absolutely.